Are you ready?
Got you covered.
Man. All right. Call a meeting to order. It's the Park and Rec Commission, February 19th. We're meeting at 5 Oaks on Warson. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Person. Present. Commissioner Bashan Hellman.
Present.
Commissioner, Chairperson Sue Rich.
Present.
Commissioner Travis Neal. Here. Commissioner Bill Hanson. Commissioner Stephanie Todd
Is she online?
is present via Zoom.
Is she here?
I guess we're gonna find out.
Who's on?
Is she on as a?
Camera.
I
Pamela?
can see you. Yeah, I'm on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi, Stephanie.
Hi.
Am I missing anybody else?
And, do you want to say who else is
Yeah,
here?
and we also have Beverly Tucker Knight, the Parks and Recreation Director, myself, Patrick McGee, Assistant Director. And we also have joining us Hannah Samorka, who's the Recreation Supervisor, and Christoph, the Sports Specialist.
Mike, sports court and Mike Stone.
And Mike Spellman of
Is it attending?
what I guess is.
It's in attendance.
Yeah, in attendance, yeah.
In process.
Here to hang out.
All right.
I got you.
And Maxine is also on Zoom as well.
Is she on Zoom? All right,
Mhm.
perfect. Item number 2, hearing from citizens. Do you have anybody out there?
And ask that gentleman if it's.
I do have one, Josh. And I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, Tomasek?
Ask him if he's interested in speaking.
Hello,
There you go.
Hello?
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is you, yes.
It's Josh Tomachek. Hi. I actually sent a message in just last night about Villa Park. So if it's in the
yes.
written communications, we can go ahead, go to someone else.
Yeah, Josh, this is Beverly Tucker Knight. Yes, I received your email. I apologize. We had late opening today.
Oh yeah,
So-
don't worry about it. I
Yeah,
got to stay home today too.
Okay, terrific. Well, there is a plan to, for the benefit of the commission, Josh is interested in what's happening on the north side of Villa, the northeast corner where there's a park entrance from Tess. And so Josh, in our park master plan, it does show a paved ADA entrance from that area of the park. When we were originally working on Villa Park, we had a plan done for that area and discovered in the course of it that the plan that we had designed was going to send stormwater down the private driveway on Tess and then exacerbate some of the drainage problems in that area. There's a open storm sewer trench back there that's probably a ancient creek. So we had to pull it out of the plans because we didn't want that to happen. And now it's on our to-dos to re-engineer that. And when we do future projects at the park, incorporate it into that. So Villa is still slated to have its restrooms renovated. We don't have a timeline for that, but it will be soon well, let me rephrase that. In municipal speak, it's soon, meaning it's going to be in the next couple of years, but I don't know yet when that'll be.
All right. Yeah,
Thanks
great
for
to hear. Thank
clarification.
you.
Josh, you mind sharing your address?
Thank you, Sue.
Yeah, I'm on Dolores Avenue, 1034.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and then do you receive our updates from the department?
I do not.
Okay, I'll add your email address to our notifications so that when we have meetings about the park, you'll be notified. You'll also get a lot of our program information. It comes from Constant Contact, so you may need to check your spam folder.
All right, great. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank
And-
you.
And also, Josh, this is Jim Burst. I live on Llewellyn and I pay a lot of attention to Villa as well. So I appreciate your interest in it.
Right. I mean, we love it. It's just sometimes it gets a little muddy, and I'm sure that's the drainage you're
Yeah.
talking about. And
Very muddy. Yeah, very muddy. There's a slope from that area of the park. The whole park drains that way. So, yeah, it gets quite, and during storms, you'll see a lot of surface water flowing in that area.
Mhm, mhm. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Item number 3, written communications. Any additional?
We do not have any.
Item number 4, recommendation to approve the January 15th regular meeting minutes.
The only thing that I saw in the minutes is that one of the, I don't know if it was a motion or a second by me, I was listed as Kate, which is fine.
Shorthanded, maybe?
Yeah, I know, my last name.
I literally am writing
Okay.
Kate down, right?
I just didn't know if it needed to have last name or if Kate was fine.
We will add that.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
I see
Sometimes
that.
like when I write what I write on here, so that I accidentally dictate it from there, so I will fix that.
You got it right later.
You can move to approve the minutes as amended.
I move that the minutes be approved as amended. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? All right,
How did Stephanie vote?
done.
Yeah, I raised my hand. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I looked down and saw a head nodding, so I thought that meant that
Yeah.
you were, okay. I saw Patrick nodding his head. Item number 5, special presentation, the annual report of youth sport, please. I take it that's why you guys are here.
Lucky them.
Yes.
It's all yours.
So to introduce everybody, today we have with us Hannah Samorka, who is our recreation supervisor in charge of sports and fitness and contract classes. And then with her is Christoph Wiegel, who is our recreation coordinator, also in charge of sports and fitness and leagues. So they're here today to give our annual report on Olivet Youth Sports. And as some of you may remember, we started doing annual reports a couple years ago. As we moved towards, we started taking all the individual fees out of the code to be able to respond more quickly to adding new programs and adjusting our fees and paying more attention to our cost recovery. So that's why we do these annual reports instead of having to do a code that says we're going to charge $2, for something. So that was a commitment we made to the council and to the Parks and Rec Commission. And so that is why they're here today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Beverly. So as Beverly said, we are here to obviously talk all about youth sports. So Christoph and I put this very beautiful presentation here together for you guys to really encompass and show all the great things that we're doing with sports. So I hope that you can see that as well.
Can you
only
put the
request-
mic closer to her?
Move the owl, move the owl.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can you hear me a little bit better now?
Yes,
Perfect.
we can't see anybody. Oh, there you are.
The only request that we have is just that you ask questions at the very end, because we may end up answering the questions throughout the presentation, but we'll gladly and open up any of the floor for any questions that you guys have at the very end. So to start us off, Patrick, if you could give us the next slide, we wanted to start off with just the philosophy, which really kind of just encompasses what Olivet has and sees for our youth sport program. And so really that consists around having a safe, fun, and clean environment for all of our athletes and all of our players, because we really harp on the importance for teamwork, skill development, and just overall just having a really fun area, whether that's having clean parks, that's having really nice equipment, that's offering new uniforms, that's hiring and having really good coaches, hiring really well qualified referees. And so we try to overall encompass that. And you'll see that as we kind of approach through the presentation. But that's our overall philosophy, is having a fun and safe environment for children to learn the importance of teamwork, fair play, and then skill development through our 3 sports, which is soccer, baseball, and basketball.
So kind of like our objectives, for our programs, one is definitely encouraging lifetime participation. I was someone who loved playing sports, and I still play sports to this day. So if we can definitely get kids involved at an early age, they're more likely to stay involved than afterwards when they're adults and into, you know, later years as well after they're done with youth sports. Another thing is just objective is just developing positive social skills, confidence, and kind of just characteristics that you can kind of find in sports, whether that's teamwork, whether that's just being on time, right, time management, and just kind of those characteristics that you can see when being part of a team, that will then play later on when, of course, they're older in the working world as well, that they can use kind of those characteristics like they learned during youth sports and hopefully apply it to their work or life in general. And then finally, of course, is involving the entire families and communities here in Olivet, where we have coaches helping out, volunteer coaches helping out, where we also just have refs as well that kind of become part of that community, that coaches can kind of get accustomed to as well with that. And then hopefully they will stay with us through the time when they start from micro, which is our pre-K, all the way through 5th grade, which we offer, so.
So we're gonna start with talking about some of our coaches. And so our coaches are really kind of the foundation of a large amount of our program. Christoph and I are here to build all of the rosters and different things, but our coaches are the individuals that really go out onto the field. They're working with the kids, they're inspiring the kids, they're getting the kids to participate, they're teaching those skills and that foundation. And so really they're kind of like the life and the heart of all of that in our sports. They really offer teamwork and participation. They offer encouragement. And so something that we really look for in our coaches is these are the different things that they're required to do. So they have to complete a background check. They attend coaches meetings and clinics. And in these meetings, we kind of review those expectations, kind of what their roles and responsibilities are so that they can meet those guidelines. We also offer clinics, which is something that gives them the opportunity to expand their coaching knowledge. And that can kind of look at how to develop a practice, what are different things that you can do during that practice, how you can run a practice, what are different skills that you can work on. This was something that we really harbored in with our soccer season, and we hope to carry that into our basketball and baseball. It hasn't happened just yet, but it is something that we are looking to implement. We've also offered for our coaches the opportunity for resources on our website. So that also looks like more coaching materials and more resources for them to kind of dive in, different videos. There's different things on Team Sideline that we utilize as well. Something else that we require for our coaches, sorry for that, is to keep consistent communication with their teams. And so that looks like communicating with those parents, communicating with their players and athletes whenever they come to their practices, updating for rainouts or reschedules due to weather, and et cetera. And then lastly is just reviewing those reviews, those rules and those expectations with those players and those parents and everything else. So we really are so thankful for our coaches and really appreciate all the work that they do, because they do make such an impact on the field or in a gym, either way.
So kind of now kind of layout of our leagues and divisions. So like Hannah mentioned before, we offer soccer in the fall, basketball in the winter, and then baseball/softball in the spring. And then from there, it kind of goes into kind of grade levels. So micro and kindergarten, so micro is pre-kindergarten. They are co-ed, so it's both boys and girls that can sign up for that. And then starting around first grade, we split them into boys and girls. So we'll have first grade boys basketball, for example, and also first grade boys or first grade girls basketball, and it kind of goes up from there. Our goal, of course, is to have all the way up to fifth grade, with a large number of participants so that we can create a league. With baseball, it kind of diminishes a little bit, so we're trying to really grow that for the spring for baseball. And then how the games kind of work. So for micro, it's a 6-week long program. So they usually start a little bit later, in the season. And then from K to 5th, it's an 8-week program. So they have 8 weeks of games. Usually practices start usually a month before the games begin. So for example, for basketball, we had practices start at the beginning of December, but their games didn't start until after the new year, on January 11th. And then with the whole program as well, like I said, they get 8 games. They get usually a weekly practice, that is decided usually by the coach, whenever best fits their schedule. And also just gym availability sometimes for basketball. And then they get a uniform and also medal at the end of the season as well.
And I just kind of want to jump in and say one thing too, that we are also open to taking anything above 5th grade. We just don't get enough teams at those grade levels, but we work with other municipalities and other leagues nearby to get them in a league, if we can. So we stop at 5th because that's where you drop off really, really hard. But we are trying to find other resources for them to get them in the league as well.
And another thing I want to add as well in regards to the weekly practice uniforms and medals, that regards to individual registrations. So we kind of have 2 different registrations. We have a team registration where a whole team can sign up in a sense, and then we have individual registrations. So this is just dealing with individual registrations.
So this will start of a series of a few slides. So this first slide will be about soccer, but this is a great slide to show you on our 2 different years and the breakdown and the differences in the growth between the 2. And so starting at the top with soccer for 2023, you can see that we have our micro registration, our K through 5th registration, and the different prices between the 2. And so micro starting at 70, and then K through 5th is at that 110, and that's for that an individual registration. And then just below that, we have the team registration, which is $700 for a team registration. Now that encompasses where an entire team gets to come in, and that can range in between 10 to 15 players, truthfully. And I'll talk about that a little bit more when we get down to the bottom and participations here. But for 2023 for soccer, we had 619 individual registrations for team or for individual participants that came in and played for soccer. Now we did have 3 team participants, and I want you to remember that with those teams comes that 10 to 15 players. So if we take, if there was an additional 10, so that would add an additional 30 to that overall registration. So it puts it, a little bit more in the mid 600s, a little higher than that. So keep that in mind kind of as we go, because you'll see a big jump here as we move into 2024 soccer. So you can see that for micro registration increased to $90 for an individual, and then for K through 5th, it increased to $130 for an individual. That team registration did say the same at that $700 rate. But again, remember that team registration could have anywhere between, and generally for soccer, you're kind of in that 10 to 15 kind of range for a team. And so we had 14 team registrations during this season. So you can see that there was a dramatic increase. Nonetheless, an already increase to that 702 individual registration. So if you add an additional 10 to 15 per team, multiply that by 14, then you can see that our number would be much higher with the amount of people that were active within all of it and participating at Stacy and participating at the Ladue 5th grade center. And so those games, if any of you were there, they were packed, they were busy, they were moving around. And so it was a lot of fun, and it was very exciting with our very cool uniforms that received a lot of compliments as well for that season. So you can see the difference between the 2. There was a large amount of growth. And so we're hoping that coming into the 2025 season that we're going to see even more of that too.
Now on to basketball and also again, kind of the relation between last year and this year. Basketball season, which is actually coming to a close here in a few weeks. But as you can see again, we had $90 for micro registration for the 2024 season. For K through fifth, it was $130. Team registration stayed the same with that $700. And then we had overall participants, again, the individual participants of 373 with 3 team participants. So if you add, of course, 30 players to that overall participants, we're looking at around 400. Now, if you look at this year, we did increase the prices, kind of stayed the same, of course, just like what we did for this year for soccer. But again, as you can see, there's a huge jump specifically with our team participants. And the reason for that is that we partnered with the city of U City, the municipality of U City, excuse me. And so we had a lot of their teams that joined our basketball league this year, which was fantastic because we were able to give them a lot more teams to play in the leagues instead of just playing themselves 2 or 3 times throughout the season. And so you see that huge spike there in regards to that. So if you multiply that 27 by roughly 10 to 12 players and then add it to the overall participants, which is already a good growth from last year, we're looking pretty good.
Moving right along to baseball. Now, our baseball numbers, when we get to 2025, are only updated for you as of today. So we'll keep that in mind as we go on. But looking back at 2024, so the same pricing as we had for all of 2024, which was that micro registration at $90, and then that K through 5 at $130. The team registration keeping the same. But for our participants, for that individual registration, we had 333, and we only had 1 team participant at that time. But moving into 2025, that pricing will stay consistent for 2025. So it's for micro $110 for an individual registration, and then $150 for K through 5, team registration being the same. So as of today, Christoph and I broke down the numbers. We had 289 individual registrations. So we are not exactly where we want to be as we were for last year. We do have about a week or so, few days for our registration. Truthfully, most of our registrations do come after the deadline, so we should see a large amount of registrations that do happen, and that's okay. We are so happy to help, and we will get anybody registered to a certain point until uniforms are ordered, and then we're kind of in trouble. But we do have an extra team participant as well here that's starting out with baseball, but that doesn't mean that we won't have more numbers as the season goes on. And so I suspect that until probably just before games start, we'll have people still trying to register, so.
Do we have an incentive to discourage that?
We don't, we don't.
I can tell you
But-
that at other municipalities, they do, and it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. We used to have
I'm
one.
just checking.
It used to be cheaper to register on time, and it had 0 impact.
Yeah.
I would say soccer is a really hard one with that
Soccer's
because
really hard.
school,
Yeah.
like our deadline's in the summer. So people aren't even thinking about fall sports
Yeah.
at that time,
And a
so.
lot of people move at that time too, so then we try to always get individuals registered when they're new to all of that, and we want to make sure that they can.
It's a tough one.
So we do partner with the Ladue School District, and so this slide kind of just explains kind of what they kind of do and what they help us with, and then kind of what we kind of do from our standpoint. So I'll start with us, and kind of what we kind of do on our side is we definitely have the league structure. So we structure the leagues kind of how we best feel fit in that sense, like I said before, with that micro all the way through 5th grade. We also deal with registrations, either through the phone, through email. A lot of parents do sign up just online on our website, but usually once the deadline does end, we take those calls and sign their child up usually then. We create the rosters once the sign up is kind of finalized or is finished, and then we always add to those rosters, especially for those late registrations. Background checks, not only just for coaches, but also for our referees, and also our sports specialists. Our sports specialists, if you guys don't know, they're just in charge of the facilities. Specifically for basketball this season, we have 5 different locations, including 5 Oaks, so the 4 Ladue schools and 5 Oaks. And so I have a person at each location that's kind of in charge of that place, just to make sure things are kind of running smoothly. And then also, of course, background checks for our coaches. We field supervisors and officials, like I mentioned, scheduling and rescheduling. So we create the schedule through Team Sideline, but a lot of times coaches get back to us saying like, hey, I can't make this game, so they ask for a reschedule, and we do that as well. And then just open communication. If there's, perfect example today with the snow, the Ladue district closed, so I sent an email out to all my coaches who practiced today, letting them know that practice is canceled for today, including at 5 Oaks as well. And Hannah will probably we'll go into this later in regards to whenever time the Ladue school district is closed, even if 5 Oaks is open, we also close because just being fair to all the teams. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then just parent and coaching meetings that we have usually before the season begins, and also at the end, and sometimes throughout the season, if there are any questions that come up.
Hold on, we go back, sorry.
Sure.
Let's also just review what the Ladue School District does as well. And so they are fantastic at providing space for us. So obviously during our basketball season, they're currently providing their 4 elementary schools for us to use. During soccer, we'll also have a 5th grade center, which is a great opportunity for the kids to play on turf fields. Unfortunately, we only use our areas for baseball, but hopefully that's something that we can possibly explore in the future, being able to use something for baseball and softball within their area as well. They also help us identify and identify volunteer coaches. And so that's something that some of the previous liaisons will still kind of help us do. But generally, we actually have a really good overall group that coaches, and they kind of pretty consistently coach throughout all of the seasons. And so Christoph and I will see generally the same names that will volunteer over and over. And so it's nice to kind of get to know those people and kind of build that relationship. And then lastly, just aid in reserving the field and gym spaces. We do have a system that the Ladue School District uses called the FMX system. And we often work with the assistant superintendent in trying to ensure that those spaces are booked to make sure that we're consistently having practices and games. XYZ.
And just to be clear, we pay for the school facilities.
Yes.
Some of them are free, but some are not.
Mainly our games, when they're a non-Ladue team, when we have our games, a lot of times they're playing a non-Ladue school district team. So we pay a rental for basically just our game. We don't pay anything for practices.
Right.
Which in the past, we've done both.
And we always pay for the 5th grade center.
Oh, for all games in the 5th grade center?
Yes. Yes.
So leading into our league participants, so we obviously expand outside of Olivet and touch other places that come in and participate with us. And so obviously we've partnered with University City and the city of Clayton very frequently, very heavily too right now within our basketball season. But there's so many other people that come and play with us too. So that's the community school, Villa, Mirowitz International School. I mean, we don't have to read all the names, you can see all of them, but the exciting thing is that we accommodate for all of these different types of people, offering where we can adjust for the schedule that they need due to religious obligations or other different types of things. So that's kind of one of the best things about Olivet is that we offer that by offering Saturday and Sunday games in different times. And we try to ensure that our Sunday games are a little bit later in the day so that those religious obligations that individuals and groups have, that we make sure that they get to participate and play as well. So you can see all of the exciting things, and sometimes these individuals come in as teams. Most of the time they do, but sometimes they're also individual registrations. And so all of these kids in Olivet and Ladue get to play with all of these other kids that come in and build future friends, and they get to play all of these same kids as they come through soccer, through baseball and basketball.
And as you all know, a lot of those teams have Olivet residents on them, even though they're not in the Ladue school district. So a lot of Olivet residents are going to those other schools, or they may live in the Ladue school district, not in Olivet, but so it also helps build that community by playing these other schools. And these schools fluctuate too. Sometimes we'll have Rowan Woods, or some of the other schools each year. They kind of depends on where they're going and what's happening.
Right.
So now just getting into more of the other things that we offer. So one of the things we also offer are sports camps, not only in the summer, but also throughout the year in a sense. So one that is definitely coming up is Skyhawks on March 17th through March 20th. It's more for that older age group. They're looking to possibly do volleyball or get involved in volleyball. We're definitely looking to see if we can expand the amount of sports that we offer, but that's just a process in which we're going into. And so kind of just creating, having a camp just to see what's kind of out there, what is the interest like as well. One of the big ones that we have this summer coming up is Challenger Soccer Summer Camp, which we have the Tiny Tykes is what they're called, which are ages 3 to 5, for the small ones, in the morning. And then we'll be offering a half-day program from the morning to the afternoon for ages 6 to 14. And then also offering an evening half-day program, which is in the evening from 5 to 8. And so parents can sign up for either the morning or the evening or both, however they want to do that. And that's coming up in July.
We're
June,
excited,
excuse me,
yeah.
End of June.
Yeah, we're excited to have Challenger. We used to have them, and then there was a break during the pandemic where we didn't have them. And then they oftentimes bring coaches over from Europe. So they're great programs, but then there was an issue getting the HV visas. So now they're ramping back up. So we're very excited to have them back this summer. So
And,
they're a great program.
Yeah, Challenger does also a really good job of helping us with the marketing side of things, kind of really trying to reach every person we can kind of get. They also put it on their website as well, so if anybody's just looking on Challenger, they'll also have it under our name as well with all of that. And then we're looking to possibly also do another soccer camp closer to the beginning of our season for soccer. And so we're working with Skyhawk and Ambush right now to see which one we kind of want to work with. And we're hoping that we could possibly offer that at the end of July, right before our season begins in August.
Yeah. Skyhawks is new to the St. Louis market. It's huge in the rest of the United States. It started in Seattle and it went down the West Coast and then went over across the US. So it's just coming into the St. Louis market. I think they've been here 2 years maybe. So they're still building that program, but they offer amazing programs other places. In my previous city, I had all other camps. We had all sorts of camps with them year round.
A large
They offer a
variety,
lot.
yeah.
Yeah, so they're still trying to get that name recognition in St. Louis. It's hard to break into the St. Louis market. Very difficult. So hopefully, fingers crossed it'll work, because when they called me, I was thrilled to have them call, because I tried to get them before and that's when I learned they weren't here. So very, very happy about that. So spread the word on them.
And do we split the revenue or?
We do a
how does that-
percentage. We do a percentage.
Yeah.
And those are both national groups?
Challengers now, yes, they're both national. Yeah. There's a couple other nationals we'd love to have here, but they aren't in Missouri yet. So fingers crossed, we'll get them
Soon.
eventually.
When
Yeah.
they do. So Christoph and I really wanted to review some community feedback that we received from our soccer survey. We haven't completed one for basketball just yet, just because the season hasn't ended, but as soon as that ends, then we'll do one for basketball as well. So for soccer, this was kind of the large overall, the major hits for improvement and so we really wanted to highlight those here. So number one was that we wanted to improve that some games were happening during holidays or school breaks. And so in the next slide, Christoph's going to share with you on how we're going to improve those or things that we have implemented. So I'm just going to read through some of the improvements and then Christoph will share the ways that we've corrected it. Number two was that practices for soccer were starting at 5:30. So one practice went from 5:30 to 6:30, and then the second one was 6:30 to 7:30. Well, at about that 7 o'clock mark, we unfortunately don't have lights. It was getting dark. And so by 7:30, then it was really dark. And we tried to keep our younger kids to be more at the very first set of practices and our older kids were at that later set, but it gets just to be a little bit too dark to hold a practice. And so we'll talk about how we improve that later. Next one was more qualified referees. Number 4 was reducing the number of times that a team played against one another. So we often had a conflict where one team was facing off maybe against the same team 3 or 4 times. And so offering a bit of variety in different teams was a complaint. Next was more team signups. And then lastly, it was just more knowledge or greater advice or knowledge on coaching techniques. So, and then lastly, before I skip, but in our survey, we did have an overall rating of a 4.3 out of 5 for our Olivet Youth Soccer Program, and I think that that's pretty good, so I'm happy with that.
So these are just kind of things that we either have improved for the basketball season or we're looking to improve for the following soccer season, coming up next year in August. So number 1, like Hannah said, games during the holidays and school breaks. So what we actually did with basketball is that we tried to follow the Ladue just school calendar. And so anytime that Ladue had off because of
Winter break
or whatever, I guess that came up, we tried to not schedule games during the time. It didn't always work that way, especially with like President's Day, for example. Sometimes we just couldn't do it, and because then we'd get too much into our baseball season and we didn't want to do that. Practice is starting at 5:30. We will begin practices earlier at 4:30. For basketball, we did here at Five Oaks begin a little bit earlier at 5:15. However, with the schools and having their after school programs, we couldn't quite move it up because of the programs that they had right after school. And so we kind of had to keep that 6 to 7 o'clock slot. And what we kind of did with that, instead of having an hour, we kind of condensed it to 45 minutes. So where one team was practicing from 6 to 6:45, and then the next team would practice from 7 to 7:45. So that's kind of how we condensed it in that sense. More qualified referees. We did for basketball hire more referees and held additional trainings. One of the big things that we also did when we hired referees is change certain things that we asked in the interview process to kind of really weed out the referees and really get qualified referees.
We started hiring, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. We hired so much sooner than we did for soccer as well. And so that also helped because we had a large amount of time to be able to interview a large amount of people and then be very selective on all those candidates that we had to.
Another major change that happened over the last year is all of our officials used to be contract employees. Contractors. We switched in the last year to hourly employees. So what that means is now we can train them, because when they were contractors, we couldn't train them because that changes that definition of a contractor. So now we actually hire them, and then we increase the fees so that we're paying the referees much higher. So we're getting older referees too, as a result of that.
Right.
So that's been a big change too. Yeah.
And we do hire a little bit younger as well, but for that, we try to combine them with the older referees that do have a little bit more experience, just so that the younger referees kind of stay with us as well and get that experience as well.
Right.
So we've kind of did that as well in regards to referees and hiring qualified referees. In regards to reducing the number of times a team plays against one another, one thing that we've done for basketball is we've partnered with the city of Clayton, but not only with them, but also with U City, which allows for more teams to either come into our league or to send a few more teams over to Clayton to play with them, which allows for more diverse teams that they play, and they're not playing the same team 3 times or whatever in a season. So we've done that. More team signups. What we're hoping to do in the upcoming year is definitely going to the Ladue schools and just having a table present, hopefully, and providing, where students can come up and talk to us, or parents can come up and talk to us, and we can just kind of spread the word that way. Another thing that I've been in contact actually with the director of communications at the Ladue School District, and she's actually helped us as well, Kimberly McKenzie. She's helped us kind of get the word out too on Facebook channels, on Instagram, and then just kind of their constant contact communications that they use for all their schools. And then finally, just a greater knowledge of the coaching techniques, So we have provided a lot more materials for the coaches where they can find these things on team sideline or on our website. But also anytime that a coach reaches out to us and asks for certain materials, we also have provided them that as well. So those are kind of the things that we've kind of improved on for basketball, but we're looking to also continue to improving that for the upcoming season as well with baseball and soccer.
So overall, just to kind of close this out and just an overall summary, but truthfully, with all of that, and we appreciate so much the collaboration between the Ladue School District and U City, because it, like Christoph and I have kind of been saying this entire time, is that it offers such a variety for the kids to participate with. It offers different individuals, different players, different skill levels. When you play with individuals that are maybe a little bit better than you, or just different people who play differently, then that offers for change and for growth for you to improve as a player as well. And so our participation is continuing to increase and increase, and so we're really hoping to drive that through into the future, continue to partner with other individuals, get more schools or more partnerships outside of just U City and then the city of Clayton, just to bring in more participation. We've really worked to improve a large amount of our marketing. We've also discussed tabling with the Ladue School District, and so we're making attempts to build our program within the city of Olivet to build as much of participation and attraction as we can. So we're just continuing to try to do that, whether that's also offering different camps and different types of things that we can just get people engaged outside of their homes and playing and participating as much as possible. But overall, the Olivet community is great. They're consistently always offering improvement or ways for us to kind of drive that participation and just to be able to make that sport experience as fun and safe, as clean as possible. And so that's what we're hoping to do as well. And so lastly, there's one last slide. If anybody has any questions, again, my name is Hannah and this is Christoph, and we are always here to help and drive in any way that we possibly can to make Olivet the best.
I have a couple questions. So is the program breaking even in terms of fees versus what we have to pay for maintenance of the fields, the refs, all those things?
It's breaking even for direct costs, absolutely. It far as indirect costs of renovating the fields, we don't have that yet. Yeah, the field renovations. So if you look at what Clayton spent to renovate their fields, we're looking at millions of dollars for just Stacy. Like at least 3 million. Warson probably 2 million. So we don't have that.
How often do those renovations when they are financially feasible? Like how often do those renovations happen?
Just speaking from knowledge of my previous job with another city.
With Clayton. It's okay, you can say Clayton.
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
just-
yeah.
We did, they were on about 6 to 8 year rotations for each field. And it really depended on, sometimes depends on how they're used. Those fields have also been, redone in several different ways to accommodate not just baseball and softball, but more soccer. Irrigation, not having irrigation really is tough for us on all of our fields. That's a huge expense for those fields because they do all have irrigation in Clayton. Our fields likely wouldn't. So that would be one thing that we don't have to, but if you don't irrigate your grass, it's really difficult to have good year-round fields. Since they fenced a lot of their fields in Shaw Park as well. That enables them to, do pre-emergent fertilizer sprays, things like that we could never do here because our parks are open and anybody could walk out of them at any time as well.
And they also, we'd have to have serious discussions about doing pre-emergers and herbicides and things like that we don't do as a policy. So there's a different operation that they do. And there's pluses and minuses to that, but that's a serious discussion that the commission would have to undertake. Yeah, and I could say quite frankly that there are some grants we could potentially go to, but again, it's weighing, there are limits. And is the field the priority or our trails or our playgrounds? So you really have to, that's where, we really talk to the commission about that when we open up the park master plan. It's gonna be a big discussion about how you want to rank that. Because we do have on our priorities that the ball fields getting renovated is a big priority. There are groups that do specific grants for just baseball fields. Cardinals have some outreach ones, so there's a potential there. But there are strings attached to that, how the fields can be used at other times. So we want to be very careful that if we do get a generous grant like that, that it doesn't preclude us from using it for adults or for soccer or something else. So there's a lot of balancing that has to go in there. But I do think that there's a potential for us to really get some money for those fields.
Yeah.
It needs to be done. The Olivet's fields have never been officially set up. They're in the same footprint they've been in for decades. And I know in the past they tried and there just never was the finances to do it.
Yeah, one of the things that decided to do this last fall is to do a lot of aerating and overseeding in some of those fields to help, get them to last and grow better. We overseeded a lot so that more grass grows in. When you don't irrigate them, it doesn't mean you can't grow grass, but weeds eventually, once the grass is gone, the weeds just are the primary green cover, and those don't generally do well in the winter. So we're trying to get some more grass, established in there, because that will help those fields last longer during soccer, because that gets a lot of use during our soccer season. But, we're hoping this spring we get some good growth from that, and also looking at other ways to possibly keep growing grass in the winter, possibly using growth tarps down the line, where we could actually grow grass during the winter season, and other green ways of making those fields look more aesthetically pleasing, but also still environmentally friendly.
Yeah, Pat and Brian have been doing a lot of research on what can we do within the parameters of what we can afford and what meets our green commitment. Because we certainly don't want to be putting anything on the fields that's going to hurt the kids or dogs or anybody else that's out there. Because some of those chemicals they use to make fields look beautiful are very dangerous for children.
And next week, our staff here is meeting with the park staff to go out to our baseball fields and kind of see what we can do to help with drainage out there, and kind of leveling those fields out so that they have a fighting chance to be played on during the spring, because that's always, really tough for us, and mainly because if you look at all of our fields, they're very bowled out, and that's part of just dragging the fields continuously. You just kind of create a crater, and then when it rains, it just fills up with water. So we're trying to do things to mitigate those things that are, again, green practices, but also can get those fields to be usable, because when we get rain on a Tuesday, and sometimes we can't play on Saturday and Sunday, and that's not what we want. That's not what we want for our programs or for the kids either.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, so, first off, thanks. This is great. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I've got 2 young kids. In fact, my daughter was on the very first slide. It's funny enough.
Oh, we
But,
didn't know that.
Yes, well, I was gonna interject, but then you said, wait, you said, wait, because I was like, man, I wanna
Well, wait, put that slide back
I
up.
wanna throw it back up
Slide
there.
back
She's
Yeah.
little blonde girl in the soccer, one of my twins, next slide, I'm sorry, second slide. See the blonde girl, back in the back there?
Oh,
That's Peyton, that's one of my twins.
yeah.
But anyways, love this topic. I'm coaching basketball currently. I really enjoy this. The big question I had was around practices.
Yeah.
I saw the slide that said 4:30. If you're open to feedback, that's really early for a parent.
Yeah.
And the other part about practices in this setup that I found challenging, and really what pushed me to be a coach, is the luck of the draw, right? Like your coach dictates what day of the week your practice is. And that was really challenging the first full year. We did all 3 sports there in pre-K. And then as kindergartners, soccer worked out. We got lucky that it was like, we have 2 free weeks, for 2 free days during the week. It was like, all right, man, that worked out. And then basketball, I'm like, I don't want to roll the dice. So, and I played basketball. So anyways, it was fun, but, I don't know, and it's probably too big of a jigsaw to like say like, hey, can people recommend and I don't even know if they can submit like, hey, I want to be on a team that practices on this day or this day during the week. But as a parent, I think I would feel more comfortable diving into more sports if it had that flexibility. So just my feedback, I'm sure you guys get plenty of that, so.
It's going.
Yeah,
Again,
just-
there's things that we could do
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so, like one thing I can already think of off the top of my head is when individuals register, they
Yeah.
fill out a sport questionnaire.
Yeah.
And so we could add somewhere in there about if you had a preference on a practice time, then you could put that in there. It doesn't make it guaranteed
Sure.
absolutely, but we can try to
Yeah.
at least take it into consideration
Yeah.
for whenever that's scheduled. The other goal too was that possibly whether it was like 4:30 or 5,
Yeah.
that was kind of more of the adjustment. And so we're kind of look at that. But luckily with the coaches too, they can kind of pick that.
Yeah.
But we want to make sure that all the parents and everything else can come. So we're always very accommodating. If for some reason that a player can't make that
Mhm.
practice, we can always shift them onto different teams and try to move
Okay.
people around too. But that's always something that we try to send out. And
Yeah.
before we make that final change, we'll probably offer the community and all of our previous coaches and participants and families the opportunity to really kind of vote on if that really works for us.
Yeah.
And so if majority vote leads that way, then we'll leave for an
Yeah.
earlier practice that way. And then if it doesn't, then we'll go back to that 5:30. We just want to make sure it doesn't get too late.
Okay.
But I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Absolutely.
daylight savings time really kills us, with
Yeah.
this, particularly with soccer. And then baseball in the beginning of the season is
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah.
Hey, if we get those lights though.
Yeah. I was just
We're not
We-
getting lights, no.
We could practice, we could play till 10.
Do you
We can play all-
remember?
That was my
So that goes back to, remember our financial responsibility and sustainability, the lights
Dark sky.
Yeah,
and dark skies. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, the lights are, I mean, we could get lights that will qualify for dark sky, but the cost of those.
I have one other question,
Sure.
if you'll entertain it. The increase in the rates, how has that led to this being a better league? Any, pick a
Yeah.
sport, but I'm just curious, the $20 increase, what
yeah.
is that like contributing to XYZ? Like, I'm happy to pay it, obviously. I'm
Yeah.
just curious what it's
Yeah.
going to.
Generally, it's just because of all the other expenses.
Yeah.
Meaning like uniforms are costing more money,
Mhm.
equipment is costing more money. We're trying to pay referees a little bit more money as well,
Yeah.
just because we want those qualified referees. But just overall, those expenses that we've
Yeah,
had,
they all add up.
everybody else is we also have come out to be paying for the Ladue. For the first year, we didn't end up paying for most of their spaces, and now we've
Yeah.
kind of come into paying for those spaces. And so just with all those expenses, that's kind of where that price increase kind of
Yeah.
happens.
And we also have strived to increase the quality of
Yeah.
equipment that we give to people. I mean, I was, when I first got here, and I mean, we have so much stuff. And that you start making your bags, and the bags just gradually get down, and you get down to the, old baseball helmets and stuff, and they just were not up to par.
For example, like with our soccer balls, we had rubber soccer balls that were really an interesting purchase. And so we really just wanted to change it to be like an actual
Yeah.
soccer ball where the players were playing with something that was gonna be, if they went anywhere else and played soccer, they were gonna be playing with that soccer
Yeah.
ball versus a rubber soccer ball. And so we wanted to make that change. And so that kind of came into play
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely.
Cool.
And referees and officials nationwide are an issue. No one wants to be a sports official because of the abuse they take.
I was gonna say, have you ever done it? It's a miserable
It's a
job.
horrible job.
Yes.
And, we're working really hard. We have a parent code of conduct,
Yeah.
we put it out there. But I witnessed horrible things from our parents
Mhm.
and hear horrible things. So it is
Yeah.
very difficult. And, you think of your own kids are gonna be out there officiating, and then to hear what's said to them is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And it is tough to be an official.
Yeah.
There are leagues, out west where don't let parents into the gym for basketball as a way to control that. I
Okay.
don't know if anybody would ever accept that here.
Yeah.
But there are also leagues where they require parents to be an official and rotate through. That is something we could consider doing.
Hmm.
If you felt there's a way we could sell it to the parents and get it, I mean, that's another scheduling thing we could add. But if a parent had to go out and be on the field and
Yeah.
take the abuse, would that make them think twice the next time that they're going to yell? I don't know.
So I can't speak on anything past kindergarten so far, but the coaches self-refereeing is a brilliant way of doing it. I don't know at what age you introduce referees, but,
Yeah, generally, it's the reason you do that in youth sports is just to hear a different voice.
yeah,
Oftentimes, just kind of like kids with their parents,
yeah,
get that same voice, they kind of know, when they can,
ignore it.
yeah, then the rules a little bit.
Yeah.
but when you actually have an official there, it's a different structure, and it also, you know, when
It makes it a
we.
little more serious too.
Exactly,
It's like a more
and
serious game.
they're also out there, not just calling, you know, a foul or a penalty, they are explaining it to them and trying to make sure that they know why, you know, they blew the whistle, so it's kind of just another voice in their ear to help them, and also kind of make it progressive. That's a big thing with our sports, is that all the rules that we have they're all progressive, so we don't wanna call traveling, you know, when they're super young, because, I mean, we would never play a game, yeah. But you know, they're like, we want them to eventually have that structure so that they can go and keep playing, and, you know, if they wanna go play competitive, or they wanna go play in high school eventually, like, there needs to be some natural progression of more rules being, you know, adhered to and officials out there.
And we kind of did that with basketball through the season, in a sense where I kind of told my refs, like, first like 2 or 3 weeks, like, just don't call everything so particularly. Kind of be a little bit more lenient in your calls, and then once we kind of hit that halfway mark, since the kids have been practicing a lot more, they kind of know the rules, they kind of know what a double dribble is, or traveling is, or whatever else. Then I kind of said, okay, now we can be a little bit more, of course, not call everything, you know, but just be a little bit more stricter on what you do call. And then also explain, of course, when you do see it consistently from one player or another player.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I should have mentioned, so this is my 7th season of Alphabet Sports. So
Thank
I've done this for a while.
Thank
You guys
you.
have
We
done a great
appreciate it.
job,
We appreciate
over the last couple of years. I can appreciate very much where we started, even back then to now.
Yeah.
Huge improvement.
Huge improvement. Yeah, it really is. I'm so excited with the team we have right now. Amazing.
Yeah,
The other thing that they've introduced that we don't have a sample of is there's a new intake form that's gonna happen for coaching. So we have a volunteer application that when people come and they wanna volunteer and do something, they fill it out, and we get a lot of information. It's wonderful. We've never done that with the coaches before, so Hannah took that form and has adapted for the coaches, and now that'll really help us. So we'll find out right up front when they first wanna do it, you know, when can you practice and all of that, but then also it has the coach's expectations, and that'll really help them. Because you guys are probably know that oftentimes we get someone who's going to coach because their spouse has signed them up to coach. And they don't necessarily even know what the commitment is, and all of a sudden they're like, I have to go to a meeting, what? And so getting coaches to the coaches meeting is really important too.
Yeah.
So I think that formalizing that and, you know, really seeing those expectations laid out right from the get-go is gonna be really helpful.
yeah.
Yeah,
It can be scary the first time, but after that.
yeah,
it's kind of just
yeah,
get going.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Couple of questions. One, what's the resident versus non-resident participation?
You know, that's a great question. Generally, it's gonna be higher for residents. We do have non-residents, but I don't have specific numbers for you, but I can get numbers and I can.
I mean,
I'll-
it's
can
just
get your-
a curiosity more than anything, just in terms
I would
of.
say more 75% are gonna be residents, and then it's gonna be that 25% will be about a non-resident.
And we're trying to kind of balance that out a little bit, because we need the non-resident teams to,
For
It's more
Down the road.
non-residents team, like the team
Yeah.
registration
Mhm.
versus the individual registration,
Yeah.
where that's gonna be a little bit
And
higher.
that's why we have one fee. A lot of our programs, we have a resident member rate and a non-resident rate, but for sports, youth sports, we don't, because kids can be in the Ladue School District and not be a resident.
Right.
And then we also need those other
Yeah.
teams to address, you know, when the parents say, well, we played the same 4 teams all season. Well, if we don't get outside teams, that's gonna continue to happen.
and it's important to note too, that for those team registrations, especially for like U City, we didn't provide them jerseys, we didn't provide them practice times or equipment. So when they pay that fee, which is why we didn't make it go up yet, because they are just paying for 8 games and our officials.
Mhm.
So that's why they pay that.
So, and then the second question is an equity question.
Sure.
Do we subsidize any folks where it might be an issue with finances?
Well, we have a waiver program in sports, just as we do for camps, but we have far fewer requests for sports. We're not sure why. I think there are times a coach is just paying for kids and that we don't get the request. We also, a coach gets to, their child plays for free or 50% off,
Yeah.
which can also help. But we do get requests. We had one recently. Oftentimes we'll get requests from kids that don't live in all of that. And that's much harder for us because we're only authorized, because we don't have a scholarship program. It's simply a fee waiver. It simply is, we won't collect that
Yeah.
money.
Is that based on school lunch?
Yes,
Yeah, so they-
yes.
They
Yes.
provide like a school lunch,
Yeah.
form that they do
Yeah.
just with the schools, and then if they provide that to us, then we can give
Right.
them that.
And that's the same thing we do for camp. We don't want anybody's financial information.
Right.
The school takes care of all of that. They just show us that, oh, I have this. And if they're not enrolled in that and they're too young, we just see their SNAP card or whatever they have.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
yeah, so we're not excluding people because.
No. No, and we don't, yeah, and I just don't, I don't want anybody not to be able to
Right.
play because they can't afford it, particularly if they're a resident.
Two other quick questions.
Yeah.
So, how close are we to capacity, would you say, for the different sports? Are we like 80% ballpark? Is there more?
I would, yeah, 80% would be high. I think that for our league that we could hold a lot more than what we have, especially for the older age groups. I think we have a good amount for that pre-K through maybe second grade is probably a good number. But as at about third grade is kind of where it dies off a little bit. But I think if we could build really third through sixth, that's kind of where that next growth happens. And so that's something that we've really tried to channel. I think unfortunately, they just go in either at that third grade, they kind of hit that more, like, I want to go a little bit more competitive, or I'm gonna go play, you know, at for club or something else, and that's where it drops off a little bit. And so I think that's kind of more where we could really hit that
Yeah.
growth, so.
Yeah, there's been a lot of research recently about youth sports and the drop off, because definitely kids are leaving rec leagues and going into the select. However, there are a large number of kids that are no longer playing organized sports. And they're either going to e-gaming or they're not doing any sports at all. And that is, there's a sharp cutoff that happens, and that's nationwide.
Especially in girls.
Especially with girls. And so there's been a lot of research to find out why is that? Are they overexposed? Some of the select players, yes, they start to hate it. They absolutely start to hate it, especially if they're playing volleyball year round or traveling, things like that. There's a lot of pressure in there. So, yeah, so it's an emerging research area that some universities are really looking at, and we look for articles about that to see if there's anything we can help with, but definitely a trend, just like baseball is definitely downward trending nationwide. It's still pretty strong in the Midwest. Softball's still strong here, but on the coast, you're seeing huge growth in lacrosse and cricket and other sports. So those are two things that eventually we'd love to be able to offer, but we can't
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
trying to find variety is the best thing, especially for avoiding some sort of sports specialization where one kid only plays one sport the entire time. It's actually really healthy for them to play.
Yeah, multiple
variety of
sports.
Beverly, you brought up one thing. We've talked about the traditional sport.
Mhm.
Do we do anything with esports leagues or anything like that?
Now, we have tried Five Oaks related, we haven't had a super amount of success with it. We haven't, like, we've tried a little bit, but I think if maybe we tried like a little, I don't know whether it was like an open house or something where kids could kind of come in and play. Unfortunately, I think our space that we have just isn't large enough for, like, if we had a space of a room like this, then maybe more kids would come, but I'm sure you've seen our little nook over there, but it only holds 4 or 5
Could
people.
you use in a room like this?
Well, we don't have,
We just don't have the
You don't have-
technology.
we don't have a room.
Equipment and.
So there is a beautiful esports setup you can see nearby. Florissant put one in. And it's a room that's the size of those two rooms, of these two of these rooms. And it's set up constantly with the computers, workstations everywhere. And it's beautiful.
Esports are great when it's set up really successfully and it
Yeah.
has all the monitors and all the keyboards and everything else, and that's when it really hits to be success. Whereas I'm not sure that we have the equipment.
And
when
they have a
it's
full-time
kind of a field
employee.
issue.
Yeah, they have a full-time
Yeah, it's
employee
like
who
we
runs
just
that
said.
whole thing, but they also sell alcohol there and do all sorts, because it's for not just kids, it's for adults too. So
Yeah.
it's a very interesting, if you get a chance to have a tour of it. But I'm not sure, as a city, all of it is, I don't think we have the population to support that.
Not yet.
Okay.
And we have looked into doing, at-home tournaments through a vendor to where we wouldn't actually need to host it here, but we could like host the event and they could do it on their own consoles, their own computer. But that was pretty cost prohibitive for us to do that and offer it. It just didn't seem like the right time, but something that we at least have an eye on, at least have an idea of what it costs.
Yeah,
to-
we,
to-
yeah, we keep engaging with them. There's a big company called Mission Control that's headquartered here and they're a nationwide company. There's actually, and then there's another one here. St. Louis is a hotbed of e-gaming. The universities here do very well in the national tournaments. I think for a while, I think Maryville was the champion for the US.
So
So,
I have a comment. I don't think we should promote esports. I just don't. We're Parks and Rec. Kids need to get outside. This whole trend where kids sit at a computer screen all day and don't go outside. I don't
yeah,
think we should promote it. I don't think we should get involved.
yeah, it's a tough one, Stephanie, because when it first came out, I was dead set against it, 100%. But the more I've learned about it, there is a group of children that never participate in organized sports and they can participate in esports for various reasons. So it is a way that socialization happens, but I had to really learn about it. Because my initial knee-jerk reaction was exactly the same. But there is a place for it. I'm just not sure that we can be equipped to offer that.
And are there any sponsorship opportunities for
We have-
whether like jerseys or even banners around like the soccer
Yeah.
field or something, and that could help supplement some of the additional
Yeah.
costs?
Great question.
Yeah, actually, we're exploring this. We hadn't gotten very far into it, but it has come across our table. And so that is something that we are exploring, whether it's also helping for more teams and players to come in and play, or whether it's helping with funding for jerseys and different banners and stuff. So that is in the works. We have talked to individuals. Nothing is set in stone yet, but it's definitely a conversation for us to talk more about.
I think that's definitely something the commission should talk about. The city, right, in the last few years, all of the sponsorships we've done have gone towards the turkey trot.
Mhm.
So now that we have the Parks Foundation, we have a wonderful opportunity to start really engaging and getting some sponsorship opportunities. It'll take some leadership around that, and I think the commission is the perfect place to start. The board of the Parks Foundation is the city council. So I do think that we need to have a spring event, at this commission's talked about that, some spring event that's a benefit for the parks, the way the fall event is the benefit for the food pantry. And that's such a nice tie-in with the food pantry and turkey trot, it's perfect. But what can we do in the springtime that can balance that and be just for our parks and really grow our funds in that park foundation so that we can start earning interest and invest it and start really making that money work for us so that we can invest it back in the parks.
I think featuring all of that business would be awesome. You know,
Yeah.
it's just something on a jersey was the
Mhm.
perfect time.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like-
we're getting a lot more businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. And you see those turkey trot shirts you see everywhere. And so a similar thing that went on our All Event jerseys, that's great exposure, because their kids, they wear their jerseys all the time, especially when we have nice ones like we have right now.
That was a question I had, regarding the jerseys. We were with CYC for a while and we went through St. Richard's and they had a thing. Now, it was a cumbersome process. I am not suggesting this process, where you had to write 3 different checks for things. And one of them was for your jersey. And then if you return your jersey at the end of the season, you get that check back. Which the whole check process was a pain. But the idea of, oh, great, now I don't have to have this jersey that's gonna sit in the closet. Like for my kids, they never wore the jerseys except for when they had to.
Yeah.
And then if we were just holding on to these things and it was,
Where do
in my
they
mind,
keep
it
them?
was wasteful.
Where do they-
And so
Where do they keep them?
they just have bins, big bins.
Or you throw them away or donate them, because what else are you gonna do with them if they're out of them? And
Oh,
No, I mean,
were you
where
talking
do,
about
no,
St. Richard's?
when you turn them back in,
Yeah.
where do they store them?
They have bins.
I would assume bins. I know a few other, like St. John's, and there's a few other individuals that reuse uniforms year after
We
year.
have space.
Pretty common in in Catholic schools,
Yeah.
because it's
Well,
also, I
They're
assume
all
that
the
you paid,
same Thing.
but I
too,
also,
where they're not different
Yeah,
colors, like-
but I assume you probably paid like CYC to play a sport is like $40, like mainly because you're not getting jerseys every year. You know, you oftentimes are practicing at your own school, so the cost of registration is really cheap, and they do that by reusing their jerseys a lot.
Okay.
But
Well, but they also did things like you had another check that you had to write to do park maintenance. And if you didn't attend the park maintenance workday, you didn't get your check back for that piece too. You know, so I mean, it was an
Yeah.
interesting thing of like, for a lot of parents, they were like, all right, I'm writing this check and there it goes.
Yeah.
You know, but for other
Yeah.
people, it's like, okay, I can come and I can paint benches, or I can help, I don't know, spread seed, or whatever the thing might be. As just, again, I'm not
Yeah.
necessarily suggesting that. What I am suggesting is looking into the possibility of having a jersey reuse program.
I have looked into that at previous employment places. But the one thing is that I think a lot of people think we spend a lot of money on our jerseys. For our basketball jerseys, let's do soccer, for instance. So soccer came with the jersey and the socks and just that, right? Okay. So we get that for, I think it was under $11, or right at $11
I
for
think the
that.
jersey was 11 and then the
No, the
socks
socks were like 4, yeah, okay,
Okay,
yeah.
so, but we're still, you couldn't go to a store, any store, you couldn't even go to Goodwill and get a shirt and socks for that.
But that's only when you order them all
the
at
bulk.
once in the summer, because then what happens is when you add someone to the team and we need to get it, all of a sudden that jersey's $40.
Yeah.
So it really is a problem.
And I know
Yeah.
it doesn't account for everyone, but as I got a little bit older, I know that most of our players are younger. I actually still have held on to a lot of my jerseys, just as like kind of a memorabilia piece. But I like to like look, they sit in a box, yes, they
Yeah.
do. But every once in a while, I pull them out and I think
Yeah.
about that one time. I'm not saying I would do that for my kindergarten jersey, but you never know, you know, there could be-
TJ will help you make it into a quilt.
She would
Yes.
help me make it into a quilt. But I'm not, saying, you know, don't write it off that there
Yeah.
probably is a kid that will.
Yeah,
will
well, I love
enjoy
the
that
idea of
something too.
reusing. I love the idea of the reuse.
And just kind of on that similar topic, we had a big problem with inventory of previous turkey trot shirts. We didn't have any, I mean, we were hemorrhaging shirts everywhere in boxes from the last. 11
Hemorrhage
years.
is the wrong word.
We had a lot.
Accumulated, we were
Yes.
backed up. We were
Everywhere.
backed up with them. Yeah.
So we did partner with an organization to recycle those, to give them to people who need them and put them in
We do that for
communities.
sports
So,
too.
you know, we do that.
TJ also partnered with,
That's, yeah,
so we actually gave some older sport equipment that we didn't use for a long time, so we do give it back
Yeah.
into the community as well.
And then there was a young man with his project for his bar mitzvah.
Yeah.
He collected sports equipment and was able to give it to other kids. So we gave a lot of sports equipment. to-
Rubber
yeah.
soccer.
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
that
the
could be
rubber
something,
soccer ball.
so that could be something that we could consider for, like, you know, if people don't want to keep them, that we could make them part of our donations that we
Right,
do, so.
Right.
Cause I mean, I get
Like
it.
an end of the season collection or
Yeah.
something. Like as a parent, I would be like, here you go. You know, my kids don't have any emotional attachment to those
Yeah.
things, and I certainly
Yeah.
don't either.
yeah, sure.
Yep.
And maybe that would be something good that we could offer a team registration that comes in too, that if somebody wanted to donate their jerseys and we had enough of one color or something, or, you know, we
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
offer that too. It's great.
Last
idea.
request, if for every sport, if we can provide enough balls for
Yeah.
every player on the team, because
Sure.
I know in the past we've done 8,
Yeah,
and for soccer, we had 11 people. So I went out and bought balls
yeah,
because someone's
yeah.
missing them.
sure.
But-
Generally, we kind of assume that there's gonna be a kid or two that brings their own ball. But no, yeah, we totally understand. We just, budget wise, that was kind of what we could get at the time.
Right.
And so we kind of tried to use, you know, a lot of those rubber balls at that time and things. But yes, no, that is definitely the goal, is to get
Yeah.
as many players
Yeah.
as somebody has. That's the amount of balls that they can.
We also lose about 15% of our balls every
Yeah.
year in every sport.
Maybe the
They
parents
got
need to write a
16
check to us.
Yes.
And then they get the check back if they bring the balls
We had
back.
about 60% of soccer balls. that
Yeah, there was
came
a guy who showed up with one ball in his bag.
Yeah. It may not be clear to parents that those balls are not
back. Yeah,
The
for them
coaches,
to keep.
Yeah, we've had
In
some.
the meeting, we do try to go over that, like in our coaches.
We did.
And we mark them,
Yeah.
we mark each
So for
ball.
a couple
I have-
years,
I have my basketball.
for a couple
That's,
years,
proud.
that is
I
great
counted them
news.
for a couple of years, we didn't give trophies, we gave balls so the kids could keep the balls. But the balls were the terrible balls, so then we went to the
They can
good
keep
balls, now they cannot keep them, yeah, and they know, they know. But, yeah,
So we don't require the kids purchase a ball themselves.
no,
Some leagues do.
they do, some leagues do that.
Any other questions?
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank you.
We don't, we need to stay.
And thank you to Travis and Mike for coaching, thank you very much.
I do want to
Appreciate
say that Hannah and Christoph have done a phenomenal job, and Christoph in a short period of time, and Hannah had already been
Hannah
here.
came
for-
in mid-soccer, everything was,
Yeah, at the beginning of soccer.
the beginning of soccer, and it was, I was every day worried she wasn't gonna come back. It's very hard, soccer's the hardest sport, and she started right then, yeah.
But we've got,
Glad to have you.
we got two people here that love sports and love, kids playing sports, so I think that is, they both have previous coaching experience, so I think they understand some of the coaches a little more than, some of our staff have in the past, and I think they've done a really good job of really working through all those issues that we've had in the past, and also working to make sure we don't have issues going forward, so I never say that enough to them, but they do a fantastic job.
Thanks, you guys.
Appreciate
Thank you
it.
so
And
much.
please join my fitness classes. We love it.
Yes.
All right, item number 6, proposed bicycle.
All right. So did everyone get a chance to read your packet? So I want to just very quickly talk about this. This is an issue that we've started seeing more and more. And particularly with young riders, young children riding their e-bikes through the parks. The adults,
Young, do you mean teenagers?
no,
Oh,
8,
little guy.
9, 12. And riding very fast. And right now, there are no ordinances. So I have talked to parents when I can see parents. Anytime I'm out there on the weekends, when we have a big rental or I'm there, I see the bikes and they're whipping through. I mean, it really is a problem. So I do think that I certainly don't want our officers out there with radar guns the way they do in other communities. We don't have that. I mean, we don't have mountain bike trails where that really is. We don't have equestrians. So in areas where you have a lot of mountain bike riders, you have a lot of horses, a lot of interaction, national parks, county parks, particularly in states with mountains, there is a place for that. I'm not talking about that here, but I do think we can do some education, but I also think we need to put something in the code so that the police officer feels confident to talk to kids and talk to their parents. Because what happens right now is I'll call and say, we've got this problem, and they come out and 1, they can't find them, and 2, they're like, well, what am I gonna do when I stop this kid? So we have to have rules for if we start to have, I mean, if there is someone that ever does need to be talked to, then there's a statute there. I also really want to keep bikes off of our new hiking trails. They really are not designed for that. They're not safe for that. And I think just with signage saying no bikes, I think that'll make a big difference there. But I think that to clean up our code, to have the correct tools we need, I do think we need to define what is an e-bike, and that is very clear for us. It's an industry standard. It's a law standard that's a national standard for these bikes. So I think if we can use that as a model and have a very gentle enforcement and education, then I think that we can improve it. And again, this is a problem at Stacy primarily. We're starting to see a little bit here in Warson, but with the Greenway coming through, when the Greenway goes from here all the way to Chevy's and connects into Shaw Park, I definitely think we're gonna see a lot more of it on the Centennial Greenway.
Are you saying no e-bikes at all on that trail?
No,
What about no, like, pedal?
well, yeah, everybody's allowed to bike on the Greenway, so the Great Rivers Greenway allows e-bikes unless the local jurisdiction doesn't. But having speed limits is really important, because that just makes you more aware when you're on it. Now, I'm a cyclist, well, I was a cyclist before I moved here, and And, quite frankly, I'm a scofflaw with, I love to ride my bike fast, but not on a greenway. On the road is a different story, but on a greenway, you really do have to be careful. There's pedestrians, there's dogs with really long leashes, there's babies in strollers, so you really need to be more aware. Just having a little speed limit sign, I think is a good idea.
Are we addressing other mechanisms? I mean, tonight, I saw a guy on a scooter in the dark flying through the industrial park
I was gonna ask the same
and
question.
through the side streets and all that. And
Well,
they're on
those are
scooters
in the
and
code. Those are in the code. So I gave you, you've got the
Scooters?
code in here for, yes, the code for Olivet is the alternative vehicles, and then they have definitions of all those. But e-bikes aren't in here yet. These are talking about mopeds and lots of other things, and scooters. They've got scooters in here right now. So there are rules for that.
But scooters that are power assist versus.
Yeah, these are all powers. Yeah, these are all powers. Yes. And they
So-
can do that. And they do go out.
Way more of those.
They do a lot of enforcement because there are some little miniature motorcycles that go all
Yeah,
over.
exactly.
And they do enforcement for that. They try and find the parents because we had a big problem here a couple of years ago and they did a very good job figuring out where the kids came from and found their parents. Then we also have problems with, golf carts are legal in Ladue. They're not legal in Olivet. And when Starbucks was here, the Ladue kids would drive their golf carts up to go to the Starbucks. So, they've addressed that. So, this is something that I'd like it to be, as I say in my report, similar to dogs on leash. We have a leash law and it's complaint-based enforcement. So I'd like to have something on the books. So if we do have, a recurring issue that we can deal with it. It's just another tool in the toolbox. But I do think having a speed limit is really important, particularly as with the greenway coming. I think having a sign posted there is a very good idea, just to remind people, oh yeah, I shouldn't be going, 30 miles an hour as I go through here. And then also having the no bike signs on our hiking trails, I think is really important.
So I agree, the no e-bikes, I don't know what to say about the miles per hour, because I agree with you, Beverly, you cannot, because I ride my bike a lot and I like to go fast, but yeah, you cannot go fast on the greenway because I take the greenway sometimes from, from Old Bonham up to Shaw Park. And yeah, you can't go fast on that, but you can go 20 miles an hour, or a good biker 20 miles an hour on their bike. So I don't, a speed limit sign is it's completely unenforceable. I don't know what to say about that. I mean, I think it's pointless to put up a speed limit. A question I have is, what about the path that goes from, I don't know, Mansfield over to Dealman? I've seen kids zipping back and forth on that on e-bikes.
Yes, that's a problem over there too, because they're also going right across streets with cars, interacting with cars.
You're oblivious, I've never seen anybody on an e-bike.
What's it, those other mini bikes?
Oh, yeah,
They're around.
they're all around. They're all around.
I'm
So-
teenage kids with those bikes and these that are by Villa.
Okay. So a couple of questions. One, are you simply saying that we add e-bikes to the definition of alternate vehicles, or do we need to put, because there's a lot of rules in the.
There's a lot of rules. So I'm doing a couple suggestions. So my first one is that we put the classifications of what an e-bike is in the code, and we can put it in the parks code, or we can put it in the alternative vehicle code. Because right now, it's an old code. It doesn't have these new inventions. So these are the three classifications. So class 1 is pedal assisted, and you can't go without pedaling. You have a little motor that's in the frame and it just gives you a little assist. Class 2 is throttle, meaning it can have more grips on your handlebar that you can control. You can now also ride without pedaling. And then class 3, well, that's like just a step below a moped. So anything above that class 3 class 3 is a moped and is covered under this. So my recommendation, if we could go to the next slide, my recommendation is that we allow class 1 and class 2 in our parks. And that is in keeping with what Missouri Department of Conservation does, what Great Rivers Greenway does, and what the county parks do. But I do think we should ban the class 3, because having something that can go 28 miles an hour without pedaling, I don't think is appropriate in our parks and our greenways.
So how do you identify those?
They say it right on them. The
But I
class
mean-
But if I
3 is right
saw
on.
somebody, would I
But
be
if
able
I
to tell
s-
the difference?
If I was looking, someone coming down the Greenway, would I notice?
Well, you would, if you could tell by their speed, but, if there were a question, and again, this is complaint driven, when the bike is required by law to have its classification on it, there's a label. There's an actual
Okay,
label that the
okay.
manufacturer has. to
It's
put
kind of
on.
like the 49cc on
Sure,
the scooter.
sure, yeah.
Yeah, Jim, you'll know, they're zipping along like on a little motorcycle.
Okay,
Yeah,
so.
There's a ton of kids with them.
yeah, there are.
You can buy them
There's
at
a,
Costco.
well, not class 3.
You can't buy class A.
You can buy class 3 at a bike store. I don't, the Costco, I think, is 1 and 2, but I could be wrong because they change all the time. But I do think that I would like us to put the no bike symbol on all of our hiking trails. So when I say hiking trails, I'm talking about the Sassafras Trail here, the Cottonwood Trail at Stacy, and then behind the pond, we have all those new trails that are going, there's a name for those. I cannot remember their name. It's not, it doesn't roll off as easy as Sassafras and Cottonwood, but the Parks crew has named that over there. Do you remember it?
No,
You don't, Kate? Yeah, I don't remember either.
it's ponderous.
Yeah, we don't have the signs yet there that we put the other ones. So those posts we have, we can very easily put a little symbol on the post we already have that says no bikes. And again, it's just a reminder to people, there should not be a bike there. And that helps also that if you're walking through there and you see a bike, hopefully you'll say, oh, you're not supposed to have a bike here. Now, I know people don't feel comfortable doing that anymore, but when I was growing up, all the other adults kept you in line. I would like to adopt a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit for bikes on all of our paved trails on the Greenway and in our parks. And again, it's not enforceable necessarily, Stephanie, but it's a good reminder that we can put in the park code very easily. And then I'd like us to post signs. So I put up here, this is what the signs look like in our wayfinding. We have not deployed these because we couldn't afford them, but all of our new park signs are, this is that same wayfinding system that we have for all of the uniformity of all the park signs. So we can get these little ones made very affordably. And then the other thing is the wayfinding does identify labeling the streets on the pathway that goes between the houses between Oak Estates and Dealman, because no one knows where they are when they're in there. And people call, Stephanie's been really helpful. She always finds stuff in there and tells me about, we have a couple other residents, they call and say, there's a tree limb down. I don't know where I am, but there's a tree limb down. So if we had the little signs that said, this is Radford, this is Cherry Tree, then it would help us go out and find those limbs. So I think it helps people know where they are, and it also helps with maintenance, because cell phone coverage in there, you have to sort of open your map to know exactly where you are. So Dealman has little spotty areas on it, so it can be a little troublesome in there.
So are you talking about just limiting this discussion to e-bikes?
Yes.
Because I've seen scooters that have gone rapidly. I see people on these single
Well,
wheel
those are
Segway
all,
kind of things.
now the segways I have not had a problem in the parks with yet. That just,
Like, so a
not
Segway.
Segway, there's those,
One
what are
wheel.
those the one wheel, two wheel things?
Hoverboard.
Yes,
There's
there's
a
a,
wheel is hoverboard, one wheel is
yes,
one wheel.
yeah, there's a
clever name.
there's a guy who lives on Worcester Pines, and he is the only one I see going around with those systematically. He's a really nice guy. He used to take it in Worcester, and I don't think he does anymore. But because I haven't seen him since our offices moved. I used to see him go down Grandview.
So the other thing that I noticed when I was at Stacy the other day, people riding those bikes across the
Maxine is a question.
The fields.
across the fields and through the parks and all that. I just saw the tracks in the snow.
Mhm.
And I don't know whether it was a bike or whether it's that,
Well,
but
there's also cross-country skiers that go in there when it snows,
yeah, this was a single track.
single track.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, but we're
Yeah.
talking about bikes.
Well, I really don't have a problem with the bikes running across the grass, particularly because we haven't invested in them. They
Yeah.
don't really do the damage in there. I have a problem with them on the unpaved trails, the hiking trails.
Now, do we have a recommendation from the city attorney on this?
Well, let's go to our next steps.
Okay,
So,
sorry.
yeah.
But so I have a question.
Yes.
So can we, so I agree with all the signs, Beverly. I'm fine with them all. Is there a sign that's like no e-bikes that we can put up?
Not unless there's a code that backs it up.
No, but if there is a code, is there a sign or do you just write no e-bikes? Or, well, the problem is we're allowing 1 and 2, but not 3. So is there a way we can put some kind of sign up? I'm just asking.
Well, the miles per hour is where it really is effective. So just like we don't have signs all over the park that say you can't drive a car here, but there's still a law that you can't drive a car there. So if someone drives a car in the park, they'll get a ticket, if we see them. But, so again, we don't have to have all of the signs up for the law to be enforceable. We
Okay.
just have to have the law in the book for
But someone has to
problems.
call.
And so, yeah, it has to be complaint driven, but if, we get problems all the time with specific dogs. And when there's a specific dog, we work with the police department, we find out what time they're typically coming, the police come out and they do a very good job of getting, finding that dog. So same thing with the bikes, if we have a repeat occurrence happening the same time, like after school or on Saturdays, then they can absolutely be out there and intercept them. So, but we have to have the law on the book for them to be able to do that.
Okay, Maxine, did you have a question as well? I saw your hand up.
You're on mute.
Yes, thank you. So before you went to the next slide, how do you I guess it's kind of like Stephanie's question. The sign there shows no bicycles. That's how I read it. There isn't anything for e-bikes because you're saying we're not prohibiting bicycles.
No, that's on the trails. That's on those dirt trails. You don't want people going on the dirt.
So
hiking
so the banning of the bike is both electric and non-electric. So it doesn't have to say that it's an e-bike. It's just no bicycles at all. So it's like a Venn diagram.
I understand that.
Bikes, yeah.
Okay, so are you considering like the path around Stacy being?
No, that's a
Talking about the
paved-
gravel one, the gravel
No,
one.
I'm talking about any trail that's not paved.
Okay, okay, so that's where those signs would be.
Yes, that would be on all of our hiking trails, the
Okay, yep,
hiking trails.
okay.
Yeah, not the paved sidewalks and not the pathways.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Can you go to the next slide?
Thank
Okay,
you for the clarification.
yeah, no problem. So we're a long way for this getting adopted. So first I take your feedback that happens now, the feedback you give me tonight. Then I take it and I talk to the police chief about it. That's the first step. And then, once I get all of Beth's input, then I prepare a draft ordinance. And then that draft ordinance comes back to you for you to review it again. And then, once it's in this condition that you like it and that you approve it, then it goes to the city council and that's when the city attorney sees it. And then we present it to the city council and it would be 2 readings. So then once it's adopted, it gets codified into the city code. Then we have to put into the budget to buy the signs. So it takes a little bit of time for this to happen, but you want to make sure that you have these public meetings so that the public knows that we're going to talk about this. Because people have a lot of thoughts and feelings about bicycles.
In that process, just looking over some of these, like chapter 375 for alternative vehicles, there's a lot in there that's really outdated.
There is.
So I don't know how much, in addition to creating a new ordinance, it seems that it would be, this would be citywide because these are definitions that would
Right.
apply citywide, not just parks.
So what would happen with the ordinance is it would amend the ordinance to put the description of the e-bikes in there. I am not prepared to change that whole ordinance. That's gotta come from the police department. But there's a uniform vehicle code that they take that from the state of Missouri. So it could be time for them to review our code and make sure it matches the state code and all of that.
This was last updated in 2008.
Right, so that's quite some time ago. So that definition would go in there, but then it would also update our park code. So we would put the miles per hour would be in the park code. And then it's up to the police chief where else she wants to put it. It could also, I think it only has to be in the ordinance in one place, but that's where I don't have to worry about that. So what happens is we amend an ordinance or we repeal it and replace it. So I think this ordinance would be an amendment to all of these to just add this wording in there. So when you see the codes, for those of you that, not everybody looks at the codes all the time, but you see all these little ordinance numbers in here. It's when it tells you chronologically when it was amended and what happened. Yeah, and there's several amendments to the park code that aren't in the code yet. They haven't codified it yet, so they're still sitting out there as changes. So when you print out the chapter 240 for Parks and Rec, it's outdated in the ordinance. You have to go into the new ordinances that they've been approved, but they haven't been put in there yet. So it's a complex process.
So we're talking about a year.
Question.
I would hope not. I would like to have it done before summer so that we can get it in the budget, so I can get the
Right.
signs.
So
Question. Do we have to have 2 readings before we can approve it? And then
No.
okay,
No, only the council.
okay,
Yeah, because you're not changing the code. You're just making a recommendation to the council that there be a code change.
So you're just looking for feedback, right?
Yes.
That's all this is? Okay,
Yes.
so here's my feedback.
Yes.
It's confusing why there's 3 classes and we only want to ban 1 class. I get the difference in the speed, but that's confusing to me. And then the other thing that jumps out at me, and I have no experience with this, but I'm just curious how these are enforced. Like, I'm always like concerned about that. Like, these are
Mhm.
generally gonna be kids. Like, are we really gonna
No,
escalate this to
No,
some
they're not.
point if they're repeat
They're not.
offenders? Like, you
no.
know what I'm talking about?
So what happens is, again, it has to be in the code for the police officer to address it.
Yep, and then they address it and then
They
they
address it.
catch the kid doing it again.
So what they're really looking for is, where do you live? Who are your parents?
Yep.
And then they go knock on the door and they talk to the parents.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Travis,
And
the
the-
clarification I think is also that you're not like walking around the bike path and your kids on their bike, which you see a lot and they're halfway ahead of you. These are more middle school and teenagers and even college students.
Well,
For 8-year-olds,
the problems we're having are with younger kids. So we would
Really?
not take it. No,
Yeah.
yes.
The
Yeah.
kids I
Yes.
saw were like 14 and 15.
Well, you see that too, but I see
seen a
some
lot
pretty
of
young
younger
ones. Yeah.
But anyway, so,
Yeah.
okay, after they
Okay,
talk to the
so
parents.
after they
not
talk to- After they talk to the parents, then they have a relationship with those parents.
Yeah.
So for example, we had a huge problem with littering last summer at Indian Meadows Park.
Mhm.
Someone kept putting giant bags of 2-liter bottles and all this stuff and just filling our cans, and it was overflowing. And we just picked it up. We didn't really worry about it. But one of the neighbors called and reported littering because they were fed up with it. The police saw who did it and they went and knocked on the door, and it was a young person who was buying all these drinks that the parents didn't know about, which is why they were throwing them away at the park. So the police department talked to the parents, and now that behavior has stopped. It doesn't happen anymore. So I think the Olivet police do a really good job of doing that early intervention with parents. Now, if we have a college student or a commuter that's consistently violating it, they'll give them a warning and then they will give them a ticket.
Yeah.
So it's all about the age.
So this
It's
is
all
a
about
ticket
the age.
thing. That's what I wanted to land
It's a
on. Like
ticket.
eventually this is like speeding in my
could be.
car, right?
Yes,
It's
it
a-
could be.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
it's an
following.
ordinance violation,
So
not a
anyways,
felony.
just somebody
Not
that
a
doesn't
felony.
know anything about this, just
Yeah.
to land the plane,
Yeah.
is the class of the things that's
Right.
confusing to me.
Yeah, and the
If the
classes,
group's good with it, I'm good with it.
the class, is what we have to use. That's how the codes are written. So that's why I gave the example, Missouri Department of Conservation. I mean, these other agencies have done the work for us
Yeah.
and made our path much easier because they deal with it far more than we do.
I'm just thinking like logically, like 20 miles an hour on a bike versus 28, like somebody smoked me going 20 versus 28, it's gonna hurt.
Well,
right?
it's not,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like,
it's not, the difference is that 28, you're not pedaling at all. You're really revving.
Right.
And you can get a lot faster than that.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't necessarily max out at 28. That's what that classification is. But you can get bikes that go even faster than that.
Got it.
Yeah, and
Okay.
people soup them up. They do all kinds of stuff. We don't have that here.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Well, that's my feedback. All right.
Yeah, thank you. I
So we make
appreciate that.
Because those two classes go up to 20, so we make the speed limit 20?
No, I don't want 20 miles an hour in the park. 20 miles an hour is fast.
I buy it and I can go faster than 20.
Well, I can too, but I wouldn't do that on the pathway at Stacy.
Yeah, Stacy would be.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So it's not a citywide, it's only on our paved paths in the park and on the greenway. And you wouldn't want to go 30 miles an hour on the greenway on your bike. Yeah, well, people do,
There's no barriers, there are no barriers, right? And some
there's no
sharp
barriers,
turns,
there's
yeah.
no barriers, there's turns. It's
very-
designed for a lower speed. Yeah, my worst bike accident I ever had in my life was here in St. Louis and I was going 28 on Cannon in New City. And it was horrible. And that's not a fast speed. Yeah.
Plus, as a city, you don't get sued by someone who was biking and there are no good signs saying, don't do this, right? That's also a risk.
Right,
And that-
and you know, I'm not a sign advocate, I don't like signs, I've removed a lot of signs in the park, we had a lot of sign blight. But I think having miles per hour posted is a good idea, a good practice.
And it might be interesting too, to have those, we had one on Villa, it was just a little blocked electronic
The speed limit.
speed thing that they just attached to one of the street signs. I mean,
The
now,
police- the police have
it
that.
couldn't have the opposite effect, because like my family, we were like, let's run and see how fast we can go, you know, we have the opposite effect.
Yes.
But it's another
Yeah.
option to help people see, oh,
Yeah,
what is their speed?
yeah, I probably wouldn't be able to put those in the park because of the cost. But the police department the ones the police department have, they move around.
Right,
Because
right.
they are so pricey. Yeah, so if we had a problem area, we could put them up temporarily, yeah, for sure.
I may be partnering with the police.
Right, and you know, it could be a flash in the pan, I mean, we could go through all of this and then we just don't really have a problem, but but I think it's good for us to kind of keep current on what's happening, and we're definitely seeing issues. The parks crew is really concerned. And I really want to take their concerns seriously, and I'm concerned because of what I've seen. So,
Before someone gets hit. I
right,
mean, that's what this is about.
yeah, yeah.
Right?
But also, we don't want these kids to get hurt. I mean, the kids are going fast and they're not wearing helmets. In the park, you never see kids with helmets on in the park. And they are going super fast. They could, I mean, we have those dogs on those retractable leashes. I mean, there could be a serious, the children could get really, really hurt.
Alright.
Yeah.
Item
Okay.
7, working group reports. I think, there's only one, right?
Three.
We got
We got three.
three of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we, Mike, Stephanie and I met, and I mean, you've got the report, hopefully you had a chance to read it.
Yeah.
The basics of it is that what we have currently and we're using Stacy Park as kind of like the.
Ground zero.
Exactly, the starting point. The current cans that we have are all being used as trash cans. Recycling is not happening. Part of that is because the cans all basically kind of look the same, and even though it says no trash, that's kind of wiped off. There's also a sign in the front that I think is hilarious because it has more words than anybody will ever stop
Correct.
to read. So the basic gist was that let's try a low cost entry point get some blue spray paint and pick 4 cans and spray paint the outside of them blue. Get rid of those signs that nobody's gonna read and instead have a very simple banner sort of, I don't know, banner, but like
Says
kind of
recycle.
simple sign that says recycle bottles and cans only. Or recycle bottles and cans here. The idea is we're just going for bottles and cans. We're not gonna worry about paper. We're not gonna worry about cardboard. And then getting some of those circular single hole lids, whether it's, doesn't matter the style, but having a lid that only accepts things of that size so that people are less inclined to just stuff whatever they can in there. And then the goal is to just start with 4 and see if it makes a difference. And Ed Kastner, who's on the park staff and is a wonderful champion for this, really wants to see recycling improved in the parks as well. He's working with us to help monitor it and see if it works.
And one question about all the signs, is that related to any grant?
It was originally, it was required by the grant, but it's so long now.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And that grant is available. We can go for it again. Unfortunately, it only pays for recycling, and we really want the recycling to match the trash. That's our goal. So those cans are incredibly expensive, so we'll keep working, and the group is
Yeah.
doing
That
great
sounds
job
great.
researching. Yeah.
What happens when someone has a pizza party and they have 25 pizza boxes? Do you just, what would we want people to do with that?
So the pizza boxes can't be recycled.
That's what
They
I'm
have to go in the
asking.
trash. They shove them in there, or they stack them up next to them.
Is that okay? Is that
No.
the best?
No.
thing to
No.
do? What
No.
should people do?
They should put them in the cans. They should fold them and put them in the cans.
Or take. the
Or
words
take them
out.
home, or take them home. And that's why we're charging that deposit now for every rental on the weekends.
Oh, we would charge them if they left black pizza boxes out.
Yes, and we've had to go to that because we have tremendous, and pizza boxes really aren't our problem. It's everything else, everything.
Just excessive amounts of trash.
Excessive amounts of trash. Yeah, people, decorate the pavilions like nobody's business. It boggles my mind.
So that would solve, this would solve for that at least.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and it would really help the park crew out too, because it's heartbreaking. Because the other thing people do is they put full cans in there too, which makes everything really heavy.
So what's the next step on, is park staff going?
Yeah, park staff's we're working on it right now. We're gonna try the spray paint. It'll flake off, but we'll try it. And then we're also seeing if we can just buy blue.
Or buying blue paint.
Buy the blue, the replacement cover in blue.
Okay.
Because we'd love to be able to put the one with the small, like that other one over there. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
That's expensive.
okay,
everything's expensive. It's just crazy expensive. Just crazy.
all right. Sounds good. Thank you very much. Stacy, parking during soccer.
Mike and I kind of touched base on this. He had asked, what our plans were for soccer. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna stagger the, schedules of games on the weekends during soccer season in Stacy. The one variable that we can't control is gonna be the fact that if we have a large park rental in Stacy
Yeah.
on a weekend, they're gonna bring cars in there that we can't necessarily, but that's always been a problem. So, but I think by staggering them, we can get people in and out. We also plan to use Warson this year. So we can kind of, spread things out a little more. So I think we have a good solution for that. So
Okay.
I think we can
Mhm.
Check that
check
out.
Yeah.
that.
thank you.
And the
Alright.
the younger games have the most attendance.
Yeah, of
So,
course they do.
yeah.
The parents, the grandparents.
Yes, exactly.
That's an uncle,
Yeah.
everybody shows up.
Yeah.
And we're also looking at possibly using Warson for our younger kids because they have so many
Because
people.
More
and
access.
we can stagger them a little
Yeah,
more.
and they can park both here and up top.
Mhm.
They can get there from both
park down there
ways.
and walk
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, so we've got
Have
some
you ever
opportunities.
used Villa for the little guys?
It-
Like the micros?
I know that when I was with Clayton, we had met with them and we looked at it and it's like, it'd be difficult to do there.
Okay.
Just
And
based on
parking
the,
is really limited,
Yeah.
Oh,
and it would go straight to your house.
Well, yeah, they could be parking on the street, yeah.
yep,
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
problem.
On both sides.
They went back, before I started, I think 5 or 10 years before I started, was the highest they ever had in, all of that athletic association, OAA, which is the precursor to this. And they would put games at Irvside and Villa. But two things have happened since then. One, they identified that the fields just weren't appropriate. They aren't built for that. And we've also constricted our amount of mowed area, so it would be much harder. So in the past, we have used them occasionally for practices, particularly when we were under construction in other areas. But it is difficult. It's difficult to use those spaces, but we could theoretically put like a kindergarten team there for practice.
We have 6 fields at the fifth
And there are
grade center.
groups at practice.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
But now that
we
we
get a
have,
lot
yeah, but now that
on
we
this.
have now that we're allowed to use the fields at the elementary schools, they're putting a lot of practices there, which has helped tremendously. Yeah,
Well, didn't somebody leave a goal at Villa at one?
there's a
point?
goal at Villa all the
It's still
time.
there.
It's a hockey
It's
goal.
the same.
Yeah.
So
It's a-
has the e-bikes.
Yeah, well, people move it around, kids play with it all the time. One of the neighbors put it in. It's a very expensive goal and it's just there and it moves around, the mowers move it and the kids
Yeah.
move it. Yeah.
And
And we're okay that it's there. I mean, it's okay. Yeah, it's a
Alright.
park.
number 3, park tours.
You had me at that one. I'm not sure.
Yeah, did you guys want to talk about the forms?
Is that what this is?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't understand if that's what that was.
It
Okay.
was supposed to say park visits.
That
Oh,
would make
sorry.
more
I
sense.
got
I
the-
was like, are you giving park tours?
Do people see, I don't know that folks other than you two
So
saw.
we used
the
it,
form.
right?
People have used, can you pull it up?
I don't have
Oh, you don't have the link to
No.
it.
but I
Um,
could.
so has everybody received the email that has the Google Doc?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so, I did get feedback on there from Jim and from, Sue, and I have it now, I was going to the schedule, I was going to the wrong one. So now I'm going to the right one to see the comments in there, so thank you, I appreciate that.
Now, if we happen to be in a different park,
You can still put in,
can we still do? one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I put my note, I went to Villa. I happened to be in Villa and there were 20 people there, so I made comments.
But what I'm saying is if I go to Villa and do one, and then if I happen to be in Stacy, can I submit
yeah,
to?
Of
yeah,
course.
yeah,
There's no limitation.
I don't think there's a limitation.
No.
No, yeah, the
Yeah.
idea with the
You
form is
just fill it
just,
out.
anytime you go to a park and you have something to report, that you can just pull up the Google Doc
Mhm.
and
And
the Google
record it,
form,
yeah.
and you just enter it in so that we
Yeah.
have kind of a running,
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
look
it's
at what's
great.
going on.
and then Bill went to Irvside and he didn't put in the form, he called me immediately because the dog pot was overflowing. So that's perfect. He saw it, he called me, that's the best thing,
What was that
Yeah.
for?
the dog pot.
Well, and I did Riverside too, and the park,
Yep,
the
you did.
gates are a mess.
Yeah, the gates are a mess, yeah.
Okay.
People are rough on it.
Okay,
Right.
all right, so that was great. Where are we? We are item number 8, is that right? Oh, Five Oaks, sorry, item number 8, 5 Oaks on Wharton monthly update.
I'm gonna
We
go.
included all those numbers, so can we just sort of
Yep.
summarize quickly?
Yep, we had 111 new additional members since our last meeting in January. We are still getting more and more residents that are coming in here, which is awesome. We got about, I think 70% of them were residents, so that's great. We've also added some more rentals, went up in the playground quite a bit. And in the kitchen as well, we had a private rental over here.
Yep, that was a private rental.
Oh, is that a problem?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, those keep, growing as well. And we're doing well here. We're busy quite a bit. Our practices, for basketball here have brought in a lot more new people. And, so memberships, we're also working with, a couple of organizations, in the business district over here, or in the,
Industrial park.
thank you. I could not think of that word. In the industrial park about doing, possibly 20 new membership for a corporate, company.
Is that the Emerson?
Yep. So that's
No,
exciting.
not Emerson, not yet. We've offered it, we haven't.
Yep.
We haven't talked.
We are working with them. They're gonna be doing tours for each of them to come through here and they want to come here during the.
Emerson?
No, this
No,
is
yeah,
White Glove. They basically high-end exotic car, service.
Sure,
and-
you're right.
Yeah, I think it's called White Glove.
It's a detailing for high end.
Yeah, they do all kinds of
What's the
Did,
total number of households as members? I know we surpassed 1,000 recently. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're almost at 15.
I really wanted to add one person,
yeah.
just to have a nice round number though. I didn't wanna lie to you guys.
But next month, hopefully it'll be over there.
One quick mention too, so Old Bonham is having their annual trivia for that PTO, and I thank you for donating the daily passes for Five Oaks
Thank you.
in a little basket, so that's up, we're included in the option.
Another one of
So-
Hannah's skills. It was
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll get even more exposure to Five Oaks with that crowd.
Were any improvements or updates made for the sound system?
We're working on it. So,
So I have talked, there are a couple of things going on here. We addressed the issue that you had that night and fixed that part, but then when we did that, we also noticed that we had some issues with our TV and the projector. We're working with the company that installed it, and they're like, we'll reset it, it should all come back. We reset it, and then everything stopped working.
yeah,
So we've had like,
but they're charging us a high service fee to come out every time, and we're really irritated with that. So, there aren't a lot of companies that can do that. So
we
we are,
did play hardball with them and got 20% off of the next service call. Not a ton, but we are, like, I kind of,
yeah.
What we using?
This is,
Communitronics.
Communitronics. We could use Tech Electronics, there's a couple other companies, but when they come in, they'll erase all the work the other company's done, and
Yeah.
it'll be a new setup fee, and
Yeah,
we're,
it's a game. It's a
It
game.
is.
yeah,
Oh, that's so frustrating.
it's very frustrating.
That's where you put your problem into YouTube and you figure out how to do it.
Well, so the system's a locked.
No,
It's a locked.
I wish it was
Yeah.
that easy, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
those esports guys come over
Yes.
it's designed to be smart, and
Yeah.
those smart components make it much more complex, and there's
Yeah. And
coding.
when the power goes out, it
It
screws.
wipes it out.
So do we have the funds in the budget somewhere to have a backup system? Because that's what I was
We
thinking.
have a backup system, and we've talked to the staff because they should have brought the backup system in, and they
Okay,
didn't.
it's just like a portable speaker.
Yeah,
and
it's in the
microphone.
Dogwood studio. Yeah, it's the
Okay.
one we use in there. Yeah, and then we have an even older backup system for that we use in the parks. So we do have
That was
the,
a
Okay.
training.
it was a
Good to
training
know.
issue. They forgot, it had been working well, and they didn't even think to do it.
Okay.
Yeah. And we also have a plug-in mic that they didn't use either, which can eliminate, because the cordless one's the one that does the
Yeah,
feedback.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like it's mostly just kind of training
Growing
staff so that
It is.
troubleshooting can happen on the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we found that the microphone was when you were directly under a speaker, we'd get a lot of reverb. So that was one of the things we tried to address right after that.
Put those like I got. Item 9, city council report.
Maxine.
Matt.
Okay, well, last week we had two very exciting openings. We had the opening of Five Oaks. We had the opening of Aldi's, and one woman got there as early as 1:30 in the morning. The first 100 people in line received a bag of groceries and gift cards, and they range from $10 to $100, and no one knew what they were getting. And Jan Fitzgerald, who we all love, who is the chairperson or president of Olivet and Bloom, was number 5 in line. She was there on a dare. It was a very cold morning, but the store is great, and I hope everyone's had a chance to get in there by now. And then on Friday, we had the opening of Great Heart Brewery. And a week ago, Monday, they brought up some of the Olivet staff members and the city council members and gave us a tour, as well as showed us the microbrewery. So when you're there, you can see the microbrewery through the glass. I don't know if they're giving tours on a regular basis, but it's really good. And come spring, we'll have also it's a little cold right now, but there's a patio outside. And so it's fun. I encourage everyone to stop by, and it's a great addition to Olivet. the Clover, because at the beginning of the month, Jennifer Yackley always gives us an overview of Olive Crossing. They are at 90% leased and 85% occupied. And lot 3, which is the opposite of Aldi's on the far end, right where you pull into, right as you are about to pull up onto 170 going south. They're aligning their subcontractors right now, and so they should be, we had hoped they were going to break ground at the end of January. The ground was frozen, ground's still frozen, but hopefully by the end of this month, we'll see some more movement of dirt or something over there. For those of you that don't know, Greg Carl had to step down from city council for unforeseen situation, and so the Olivet City Council appointed Mike Solmanoff. And so for those that you don't know, that tonight's Mike's last meeting as a commissioner for parks. And but you'll be seeing a lot of them because he's now going to be the on city council. He'll be sworn in next Tuesday night if any of you would like to come and see that or be there to support him. We have 3 other openings. We have 2 other openings currently to fill. So we'll be filling Mike's position for parks, EDC, we have 1 opening, and PCDC, we have an opening, but the opening on PCDC is specific for a architect. And these appointments will be made in April. And then at the end of March is when we look at who is on the commissions who are rolling off. And then those appointments will be made with the new members of the city council post-election, like in June, to go into effect for July. So are there any questions?
If someone's interested in applying to the commission, how do they do it?
They go online to the website, and it's actually one of the first things on the website right now, and you can get to an application. You can call City Hall, you can reach out to, you could reach out probably to Bev even, and you could send you an application if Bev doesn't have access to that. The best way is to go on the website. I can't see you, Bev, so I don't know if you just rolled your eyes at me, but I saw, I saw Sue smiling. So, but
I'm writing down notes so that.
But if any of you know someone that you would like to encourage to be on the Parks Commission or any of these, EDC is Economic Development Commission, PCDC, like I said, it needs to be someone who is in the profession of a architect. So it's just, good things are happening. We just need the weather to warm up.
Maxine, do they have to be a licensed architect or just an architect?
I don't know the answer to that.
I think they have to be licensed.
I think you have to be licensed.
Yeah.
Okay, I think so.
It can't be a hobby. It can't be a hobby.
Earlier today, it's licensed or experienced architect or landscape architect.
Oh, okay.
So
that
I
is
don't
how
think
it's written.
licensed. Yeah.
Licensed or experienced.
Okay.
And Beverly, the commission openings are also on the Facebook page.
They are, and they're gonna be in the newsletter too. Yes.
Correct.
Okay, thanks, Maxine.
Thank you.
Okay, how fast?
Everybody drive safely for those of you that are there.
We hit a lot of this already.
Well, this is, for those of you that didn't come, the Lunar New Year, it's our first year doing it. It was great. Really good. Next year, we're gonna have to move it out of this room and into the gym. And we'd really like to get a resident committee to help plan it for next year. So we've got a couple people that have said they'll participate. So the staff's gonna work on that. We have our hot wash board coming up, but it was fantastic.
Was it organized by staff?
It was organized by staff. Yeah, and it was a request from residents, and I'm really happy we did it. Yeah, so I think that, I mean, we have a very large Asian population in all of it, so I think it's really good that we did this, and we learned a lot. And then partnering with the St. Louis Modern Chinese School was amazing. So really, really good. The food went so fast, so fast. People loved it. It was really great. And then that's Ed Shu, who is a local author, and he came and did an author talk Thursday night before, and that was really great too. So, okay. Maxine, can you see that?
Oh, my God.
So we have a show up right now that's amazing. So all the turned wood out there is from, a majority of that wood is from our parks. They're beautiful things. And then the mosaic exhibit is from Lisa Roth, who was a longtime teacher at Old Bottom, and her show is almost 100% sold out. So there's a picture of Marion Steen and Maxine Weil up there. They came to the opening. It was a really well-attended opening. She sold out at the opening. I mean, that was incredible.
But Beverly, can we add that not only was she a teacher at Old Bonham, but she did the wall with the community for the city hall.
Yes,
She did
she did
the
the
mosaic.
tree, yep,
Again,
the
Stacy.
mosaic at Stacy Park. Yes, she's
Playground.
And the
amazing.
mosaic in our children's indoor play.
Yep,
playroom.
yep, yes, exactly. She's fabulous. So then Hannah has been doing all sorts of great things to get people in. She did Galentine's yoga. There's a picture of that. It was phenomenal. We had to use this whole room. And it was advertised to bring a friend. So quite a few people came and it was their very first time. They came, we had a beautiful email thanking us from one of the people saying how she just loved bringing her friend and it showed off the community. She was so proud of it. So I'll forward it to you guys. It's not an email to the commission, but I'll still share it with you. It's really good. Anyway, so that was great. There's our new Camp Five Oaks logo. That's our new camp coming this year, completely redesigned.
The
Next
pictures aren't changing for us. Oh, I see in the corner. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Next slide.
Come to the
Okay.
meeting.
So you will, I really wanted you to see this. So there is a master plan specifically for the fences at Stacy, and they've been doing a lot of work on this. This will be something you'll hear about because we took down the fence around the children's play area. It's really important you all know that because when the weather warms up, people will notice. So the reason we did that is people park their kids in there when they're having events in the pavilion and leave them unsupervised. So it's a false sense of security. That fence does not protect children. It actually is a huge exposure of liability for us. So that is gone. It's our only playground that had a fence around it. So it will not be there. However, that fence is incredibly expensive. So they took it out piece by piece. We're putting it back in. So you'll notice we're taking down even more of the old barbed wire fence. So there's a section still up by that retaining wall just across from Old Bonham. This fence is going to go there and we'll be able to take that down. And then we took down the fence between the park and Bonham Estates, which looked so horrible coming into that subdivision right on the corner of the turn there. So that fence will replace that. That neighborhood really wants a fence. They think that without a fence there, people will park there and use the park. So even though they have all their no parking signs, so we are doing that for them in that first section. The rest of it, we're leaving the fence because it's just, I don't think we have enough fence and I don't want to put that low of a fence between those homes. So wherever the fence at Stacy touches private property, we're leaving it. So that whole row along the southern end of all those homes that their backyards, that fence is staying there. But then we're going to take it down, also down by the cemetery, and the cemetery is very excited. They want that fence out of there. So we'll be taking that down. And then we're gonna leave it up along Warson where the hill is, the big hill. Eventually, we'll take that down when we have something else to put there, but that's a long-term plan. And then we'll be taking it down where the crosswalk comes into the prairie. We're taking that fence down there. So that'll, right now the gates are off and then eventually we'll take more, but we're leaving it north of the crosswalk. We're leaving it there because we don't want people going in and out or running through there. And then around the subdivision, I mean, the substation, we're keeping that. And then eventually we'll take it off the front of Olive, but that's another longer term. We have to figure out how to prevent cars driving in on that thing. So anyway, so as the weather gets warmer, you will hear buzz around this. I wanted to make sure you all knew why that's come down. And remember, it was the only tot lot that was fenced, so it now matches all of our other parks. And people that were coming for events at the pavilion and even walking the trail were leaving their kids in there unattended. Okay,
That's
so,
wild, behavior.
Yeah.
yeah,
That is wild.
yeah, just go play over there. Yeah.
So Beverly, you went over lots of different places where things were happening and.
I have a giant layout of that. I can bring it to the next
I was
meeting.
gonna
so you can
say,
see it.
wherever this fence master plan lives, can you share that? with
I will.
us?
I'll bring it to the next meeting. I'll bring it in March. Yeah, so you can see it, because it's good for you to see it. It's good for you to see the pictures of what we're doing.
Okay.
Okay, Brian's growing a lot of seed, a lot of seed. It's amazing. He set up a little grow area in the Park Ops building. And it really is cheap and cheerful, but he's had amazing success. We wrote an article about that. It'll be in the newsletter because it really will save us an incredible amount of money. And then we got a grant from the Missouri Prairie Foundation. We've applied for this grant 4 times and we got it. So it's about $700 and it will, we're partnering with Planting Shade. They're gonna help do the planting and it's a savanna area that's gonna go in, towards the eastern side of Warson Park here, as it turns north on the Greenway. So it's a really, really exciting project. So
So I have a
Brian's.
question about the fence. So
Yes.
I guess you're saying you're not gonna tear the one down Warson for a while. I guess I'm
No,
worried.
we are. Warson's coming soon. We're not tearing down the one where it goes up high because there's a hillside there. I don't want to take it down. It's a safety barrier right now.
So what I'm worried about is cutting down all the trees, because it looked like when you cut down the one along Old Bonham Estates, you cut down a lot of pine trees.
We did not take down pine trees in there.
No.
Oh,
No, Ameren came through.
oh,
Yeah. Ameren and AT&T have done a lot of work on there. We're not taking down trees. On Warson, we will be taking down, there's some junk mulberries and a lot of honeysuckle. We'll be taking that down.
okay. Yeah, I was worried that there were some persimmons and some,
No, Brian would never cut down a persimmon.
okay.
No. But thanks for watching out for it. Okay, next slide. Okay.
Well, when
Weed
Ameren
Warriors-
cuts down trees, do they do anything? Do they
Well,
just?
they're not, no, they don't. They don't, Stephanie, if they're cutting down a pine tree, don't worry, we will replace a better tree in there, don't worry. I wanted you to see this. This was a brutally cold day and Jim was out there and our other amazing volunteer and they did crazy work on a horrible day. So I want to make sure you saw that. It's really good.
Okay,
Okay,
all right.
okay, that's it.
All right, so you guys can read the future agenda. And I have one question about an upcoming program. Do you need the commission's help with Holy Fest?
Holy Fest is a really tough nut. There isn't a lot for the commission to do. We get very, if you wanted to help with recycling, I'm sure that the green team would love to have you. But as far as an information booth, it's kind of a wash.
No, but I mean, you need help with any of the logistics or anything, because it's
No.
on it's before our next meeting. That's
Yeah,
what I'm asking.
no,
Okay.
not really.
Bev,
We really, yeah.
well, about Holy Fest, there on the website, it says it's on Saturday, March 23rd, which is a Sunday. In the program guide, it still says that it's on March 18th, which is a Thursday. And I just read on our list that it's on Saturday, March 15th. So
Saturday, March 15th is correct. Where did you see it on the website? On the Parks and Rec website or the city one?
the Parks and Rec tonight, I looked at during the meeting, so you may want to have that changed tomorrow, but this ad that was, I don't know if you can see it, but the ad that was in the program guide
Was wrong.
is wrong, but the one on, I would think that the program guide online you could fix.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I'll entertain motions to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? If you are, it's gonna hurt you.
Thanks, everybody.
A lot of information, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah. We all, recording.
I'm really